Michigan football just had one of its best seasons in history. They got 12 wins for the third time in school history. They won the Big Ten championship for, I think, the 43rd time in school history. And it was in dominating fashion against a top 15 at the time Iowa team, a 42-3 victory. Michigan beat a ranked Ohio State team for the first time since 2003, and Michigan went to the college football playoff for the first time ever. It was quite amazing, and as a Michigan fan, even with the losses to Michigan State and the humiliating loss to Georgia, both were humiliating, but the Georgia one was worse, I'm very happy with this season. And Jim Harbaugh did what I wanted him to do to make me want him to be Michigan's head coach. I said this past season that if he did not beat Ohio State or Michigan State, like if he lost to both of them, even if he went 11-2 but lost to both of them and didn't win the Big Ten, I would not be happy with his return. Maybe I'd be okay with it, but then he'd be under a lot of pressure in 2022, at least in my ideal situation. He's done everything to give him a pass for this upcoming year. Not a pass to fail, but for him to have support back. He finally got Michigan to where he promised he would get us and to where we were promised that we would get to with him as head coach, and I'm very happy with that. But there are things that need to be done, that need to be continued, or things that need to be upgraded. Things that Michigan needs to do, Michigan needing to take a next step in certain areas for this success to continue. And that is what we are going to be talking about today. Yes, the season was phenomenal, but it's 1 year. And if this doesn't want to be an off year for Michigan and for Jim Harbaugh, there need to be things that are maintained or changed or improved, etc. You name it. 12-2 is good, but there is always room for improvement. There's 13 wins, there's 14 wins, there's 15 wins, and I'm not being a pessimist, a Debbie Downer. I'm not even being unrealistic. Michigan is a blue blood program, and they're the team that I cheer for, and I love them. But I also have high expectations for them as a result. And I think that the Michigan fan base now, after this year, you're not going to be hearing Michigan fans give Jim Harbaugh or the staff or the university excuses or benefit of the doubt if they go 8-5 or 9-4, because now they've finally tasted the 12-win conference champion greatness. They're not going to want to go back to 10-3. Nobody liked 10-3. And now that I think Jim Harbaugh has went 12-2 and brought Michigan to a next level, I think we're all, comfortable saying that we didn't like him when he was going 10-3. We didn't want that. So to prevent Michigan from going back there, these are some of the things that I think Michigan needs to, maintain, work on, or introduce in order to become a national contender consistently, on a consistent basis. The keys for success. 1, Jim Harbaugh needs to build bridges and relationships. And I say this because this is the man who burns bridges, who is a master of chaos. And to a certain degree, that's cool. It makes him unique. Uniqueness is good. The chaos factor, you kind of saw it embodied with this team this year. Going for it on 4th and short very often, and just taking risks that Michigan football didn't take before this year. And a lot of it was because it was a make or break year, but it paid off. But Harbaugh needs to build relationships on and off the field. He needs to build bridges. He can't be doing what he did this offseason, basically, to a certain degree, ghosting everyone, going on the plane to Minneapolis, and just, it was a whole confusing situation. I didn't like it. Now that he's back, I'm not fearful that he is going to be like Dan Mullen at Florida, as Josh Pate often references. Dan Mullen, he wanted an NFL job. He didn't get it. And he just kind of faded back into the background and never regained full awareness or consciousness when it came to the sport of college football. And then he lost Florida's locker room, and the whole team fell apart like, like an uncooked pancake. Probably a very poor analogy. But I'm not thinking Harbaugh's going to do that. But if you want better recruits, if you want better coaches, if you want coaching stability, if you want the extra money and extra support, you got to be able to build bridges and maintain relationships and not always be the chaotic, unpredictable guy that he is. So that's one. I think that would be a huge key for success. Like, for example, him promising not to go to the NFL. For a lot of coaches, that would work to buy in recruits' trust. It wouldn't for Jim Harbaugh because he's pulled, he's moved everywhere with jobs. He only stays at places, with the exception of Michigan, for about half a decade before leaving. And with how low his buyout is and his contract, which he's not the highest paid coach or really even to a certain degree close to it in the Big Ten or nationally, that's not going to sell security or complete security to recruits necessarily. So that's just one example. Number 2 on this list, Michigan must consistently obtain top 10 and top 5 classes. Now, Michigan and Harbaugh and co. have done very well, breaking that top 15 range. And I think the top 15 range is, we've seen, Clemson has won a few national titles with not even like fringe top 10 recruiting classes. I think top 15 is the minimum you can have to break out on a national scale and be a true national title contender, at least in my opinion. After all, recruiting is the lifeblood of college football. And it's important. That's why it is known as the lifeblood of college football. But you can be better. Top 15, how about top 10 is the minimum? Top 5, I'm not asking for top 5 every year. It's Michigan. There are, and I'm not going to use the academic standards thing. I mean, I get that is probably more impactful in the portal. For Michigan and just recruiting from high school, I'm not necessarily going to go into that because I don't know enough about that. And frankly, I kind of view that as an excuse. But I'm not asking for top 5 classes year in, year out. Again, it's Michigan. It's cold up here. We have not won a national title. We have not won a playoff game. We have Ohio State just to the south of us who has done a lot more. It'll take Michigan time and consistent winning and consistent playoff spots just to get top 5 classes every year. You know how hard that is? Especially now with Lincoln Riley at USC, Mario Cristobal at Miami, guys who they're not old, they're not nearing the end of their careers, they have charisma, they're very good recruiters, they're at, traditional powerhouses who are in good recruiting environments. They're probably going to get top 10 to top 5 classes if they just have success. And then you have guys like Nick Saban and Kirby Smart. You have SEC schools. You have Jimbo Fisher at A&M. I'm not asking for top 5 every year. You also have Ohio State down the road and Mel Tucker up the road. And Mel Tucker is a really good recruiter. So maybe Michigan State. My point is Michigan and just really the sport of college football in general is in a very competitive environment. But I'm asking for top 10 to get multiple 5 stars a year, to get recruiting classes that have a certain average rating. And that's not always the most important thing because there are diamonds in the rough. And I think this past season, Michigan, the main players on the team, like Hassan Haskins was, I think, a 2 or 3 star. Ronnie Bell, who was taken out due to injury, was a very low-rated recruit as well, and Aiden Hutchinson was not a 5-star. David Ojabo was not even a 4-star. But having high talent will get you through in the games like against Georgia, for example. It'll get Michigan to that next level where they can compete with the Alabamas and Georgias. And Michigan, to correlate with that, also needs to be innovative on and off the field. It's a must on offense and defense, and I thought that both of them did a very good job with this year. The previous two are kind of things that Michigan, I think, needs to introduce to take that next step and to have consistency. Michigan's already done this. Harbaugh has tried new things. He's tried to hire new coordinators and get the offense right. He fired Don Brown even when Don Year technically only had one awful to subpar season, though we know that for the 2 seasons prior to the 2020 season, his defenses were exposed horrifically by Ohio State. But regardless, Michigan has done this, but only this year has it worked, and it finally paid off. So just continue doing this is what Michigan needs to do to be successful. Be innovative on offense. You don't need to run, even though I would like you to run a pass-heavy spread. You don't need to win. But it would certainly help, going back to what this correlates with, it would help you run that more run-heavy, more pro-style offense if you had the top 10 and top 5 classes every year, like Georgia does. Georgia runs, I would say, they ran a pretty similar offense. They had a lot more of a run game involved than a lot of the teams in the past who have won national titles in recent years. And they had limitless talent. They had the number 1 or number 2 recruiting class every year for, I think, the past 4 years, maybe number 3, but they were top 5 every year, and that helps so much. Combining that with innovation on and off the field, whether it's changing recruiting strategies, getting new pipelines, having new systems and schemes installed, just having versatile players, maybe who can, like what Michigan's doing right now, having some players who play on both offense and defense. Keep on doing that. That'll help you win. Number 4, the Wolverine staff has to develop NFL quarterbacks. This one is something that has not been done yet. And I think Cade or JJ, one of the two, will be this. I don't know about both. I think that's a tall order to ask, given what we know Jim Harbaugh is now. He is not the QB guru that we thought he would be when we hired him. And you know what? I hate to say this to a certain degree, but with what we did this past season, that might be okay. But you don't have to be a guru to develop NFL QBs. Maybe if you develop every QB you have into an NFL QB, you'd be a guru. But just develop some. JJ's a 5-star, for example. There is no reason that he should be an undrafted free agent come the time he departs from Michigan. None. Cade McNamara was a high-level 4-star who got offers from places like Alabama and Notre Dame. And this past season, especially later in the year, he did make some NFL-level throws and decision-making. So I look at the quarterback situation Michigan has and all of that, and I also look that if Michigan continues to recruit, even just at the level they do, which they do often get 4-star or high 3-star QBs, and occasionally, like McCarthy, this year they will get a 5-star, you need to develop those guys into NFL prospects. Not just because it's the right thing to do, they're there to learn and be developed for the next level. It also helps you win, and it also helps you recruit. 5-star QBs aren't going to want to come like Dante Moore. Is Dante Moore going to want to commit and enroll at Michigan if J.J. McCarthy or Cade or both don't become NFL QBs or aren't drafted or aren't even tested out by teams? They're just kind of dismissed like Shea Patterson was. Absolutely not. And to complement good QB play, Michigan needs elite wide receivers. For a school that had Desmond Howard, the last wide receiver before Devonta Smith to win a Heisman, who had Braylon Edwards, where have the wide receivers been? Last year, the wide receivers were probably above average. A school that goes 12-2 will rarely have just average or bad wide receivers. And the wide receivers and tight ends made plays. But Michigan needs better wide receivers. And Darius Clemens coming in, Tyler Morris, you saw Andrell Anthony, who seems to be a diamond in the rough, and Donovan Edwards looked like a wide receiver too at times. So Michigan might already have a few great and maybe one elite wide receiver in their football team right now. But to complement good QB play, Michigan just needs those elite wide receivers, and you've never seen that under Harbaugh. Even when he had talent like Donovan Peoples-Jones, he went in, the 5th or 6th round of the NFL, never really had an elite career. Tariq Black, I think, is another example too. Supposed to be really elite, didn't turn out that way. So now that we've hit, again, the 12-2 level, the staff is good. They've been proven to better develop than previous Harbaugh staffs have, better identify talent, better develop, better set up their schemes and modify their schemes to suit the talent they have, and it worked beautifully. They have to develop elite wide receivers and QBs if they want to continue to win. Michigan does. And finally, the culture from the 2021 season has to be maintained. I'd say this is actually the most important. Elite wide receivers and elite QBs, if you have them, but you don't have the same culture as last year, you have kind of the almost emotionless NFL-style culture that Harbaugh had in previous years. Doesn't matter if you have all the talent in the world. You're not going to beat Ohio State consistently. Or heck, if Michigan State gets their act together, maybe not even beat them consistently. And you're certainly not going to win the playoff consistently, or even get to the playoff consistently. Or even worse, you're not going to win your New Year's Six Bowls consistently. Culture is so important. It's something that Harbaugh teams struggled with for the longest time. In his earlier years, in 15 and 16, he had those Brady Hoke recruits, and I will say that straight up that Hoke was probably a better recruiter than Jim Harbaugh is. Hoke was an elite recruiter. He just didn't know how to scheme and develop his players. But even when Harbaugh had those greater levels of talent, because I strongly believe that those 2015, 16, 17, 18 would have been, I think, the last, or the second to last of the Hoke recruits. Those teams had more talent than this past year's Michigan team. They just did, and a lot of that was due to Hoke's elite recruiting. Those teams didn't have a culture, or they didn't have a winningest culture. They didn't have the best culture, and it cost them in the biggest of games against teams coached by greats like Urban Meyer. It cost them, I'd say, against Alabama in the Citrus Bowl in 2019 to another team that is led by a legend. It cost them against 2019 Ohio. It cost them in so many games. The culture did. Not having mental or physical toughness. It cost them so much opportunity. And this year, Michigan had mental and physical toughness. Harbaugh wasn't as stubborn. Harbaugh himself showed more emotion. The team especially showed more emotion. The culture from 2021 should not, if Michigan wants to be special, the culture from 2021 can't be special. It has to be the line. It has to be the basic. It has to be expected, the culture from this past season. And thankfully, J.J. McCarthy seems to be stepping up as a leader. Cade McNamara is obviously one of the best, if not the best leader on the team. Ronnie Bell can also contend for that spot. Michigan has a lot of leaders returning from their past amazing fantastic 2021 season that I think can and will maintain that culture in 2022. But the other 5 points, you fulfill at least just fulfill half of those. Michigan can really turn it around and return to being the cream of the crop in the Big Ten, in my opinion. But we will see what Michigan does in 2022. It'll be a huge indicator as to where they're heading. And who knows? This is just the preseason. This is just a concept, an idea, my own thoughts. I'm not saying Michigan's going to win the Big Ten in 2022 or even 2023. I don't even know about 2023, nor 2022. The games haven't been played yet. We haven't even seen the spring games. This is just some of my thoughts about my own team. If you have thoughts on this video, comment them down below. Tell me what you think the keys are to Michigan's success, not just for 2022, but for beyond, for the next 5 years, for the next 10 years. Do you agree with these points? Or do you think one of them has already been fulfilled? Do you think some of them are just mute? Like, they're too basic, everyone knows them. Do you disagree with one of them? Do you think that maybe we don't need elite QB and wide receiver play? Do you think we can just do what we did this past season, but just shore up some of the weaknesses we had against teams like Georgia? Like, just get those top 10, top 5 recruiting classes? Tell me down below. I want to hear the people's thoughts. And if you like this video, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and comment your thoughts down below. Thank you all for watching. I love you guys. Thank you for 3,400 subscribers, and I will see you guys around. Bye.